Last time, in part one.
Welcome to the locker room, Greg Sanderson.
What we're trying to do is really help every child to find their voice when they go to school. Are schools really reinforcing some of the aspects, the poor aspects of democracy? This really matters. Started very simply.
When it comes to schools, I mean, business generally, there's all manner of compliance and regulation. When it comes to schools, of course, you've got things like safeguarding and a whole manner of other things that I'm not even going to pretend to understand anywhere near as well as I probably should. But I imagine part of this process will have come up against some of those bumpers and red tape. How did you navigate those when you were going through those phases of evolution?
Yeah, I think our approach maybe sort of necessarily sometimes because it's expensive to build tech, but our approach is to try and keep it really simple. So try and focus on the thing we're trying to solve for. And it reminds me of a kind of discussion a little while back where we were thinking, well, should we link up with school MISs? Should we help schools to see the kind of data that the most engaged pupils are kind of sorry, how do which pupils are most engaging with the platform, and could we link up with the MOS? And it felt like an exciting kind of opportunity, but actually, keeping things simple was definitely a better option, and we decided not to do that. So I think we make sure it's easy. We don't have that link up. We don't collect any sensitive data on pupils as well, which isn't essential for the platform. So that really helps us. There's no devices required. So pupils in the class don't need tablets or anything like that. So that, I think it's just like focusing on what we were trying to achieve and the impact that we were trying to deliver. And of course, that makes it easier to set up as well. So I think that's the ease of use angle helps. People get less confused. And if we come back to our, teachers, you do have some techie teachers, but quite a lot of teachers just want stuff to work. Of course, I guess we probably all do, but maybe teachers more so. So yeah, I think navigating that has just been about keeping things as simple as possible, which has hopefully helped in kind of the ease of use.
And that definitely comes across. I touched a couple of minutes back around that kind of crossover into the workplace. Was that a conscious thought stream? And I guess just to explain my thought there, it seems to me that you're actually equipping the children predominantly with the skill set of working in teams, organizing themselves. You know, natural leaders always kind of come to the fore, even if it's a much bigger cohort of voices that you take on. Natural leaders do what they do. They kind of step up and they look to work with the groups and communicate. And I know there's a very strong encouragement around that regular communication, which when you move forward to that workplace are all really great skills that typically were not taught at school. You're taught to write essays and pass exams fundamentally. And, that's all fantastic. But those really key skills of how to work with other people, how to communicate well, it feels to me like you've ticked a number of those boxes. Was that a conscious part, or did that just organically kind of fall out of a fantastic approach?
Well, I think it kind of depends on what you think education's for, isn't it? Like, is education about helping you to get a job, or is it about what is it about for you? I think that's for me, that's a part of it. I think I come back to the just the importance of communication skills, both in employment, but also in our relationships and in kind of what we choose to do in life. There's evidence to show that developing good communication skills early on in life helps you avoid mental health issues. So I think there's a whole range of things that when you build your ability to share, it will really help you. And one of those places, I think, is the workplace, because we all know, we've all worked with somebody probably who had probably the best ideas in the room, but maybe wasn't the best at speaking up or sharing, or felt a bit shy to do that. And of course, workplace culture has a role in trying to tease those views out. But I think we we all know that type of person who's struggled in that way, perhaps. And I think what we're trying to do a little bit is kind of change maybe what leadership looks like for young people, because what typically goes wrong when you think about projects that you've worked on is that leaders maybe haven't taken you with you, or you as a leader maybe haven't taken a group of people with you on a kind of journey. And I know I've done that as a sort of leader as a small charity. I do that probably quite frequently, or get that wrong a lot. But I think if we can instill a sense of leadership that involves taking people with you rather than telling them what to do, I think that will be a helpful thing for most people, regardless of whether they're a confident or maybe less confident speaker.
Very much agree, and like you say, I think we've all certainly been there at some point, probably on both sides. Powerful stuff there, really. What's the evolution then, Greg? Where do you go from here? Because, like you say, it's not a particularly tech heavy solution that you provided. It takes advantage of sort of modern smart boards in schools and all those kind of things in order to facilitate. So it uses technology in that facilitation center. It's just as powerful as an app on your phone or wherever else it might be, depending on what you're trying to deliver. But do you see, if maybe you don't want to share, but what is the evolution? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's something I get very excited about, to think about what's next. And it's interesting, actually. We had Alistair Campbell come and visit one of our schools last week. So he came along for a whole morning, hanging out in one of our kind of most established member schools, and it was really fascinating seeing like a public figure engaging with a smart school council and seeing kind of that interaction. He was absolutely brilliant with the kids, and I think just sometimes when you see someone like that interact with young people, they really bring this whole thing alive. And I think that's something, as we evolve, I'd like to do more of. So with our kind of platform, you can each question that is asked in each class meeting across the school, schools can pick a question from our question bank. And I see a role for, like, in the future, maybe more public figures being in that question bank, or like, do you want to ask a question from this person who's got a lot of experience from this area of life? So yeah, probably a role for public figures more, I think, in asking those questions, not just kind of school generated ones. Definitely more partnerships. So we're working with, we've got a few exciting projects coming up with different local authorities and multi-academy trusts to look at what pupil voice or young people's voices across a group of schools could look like. I'm just excited to build more impact, really. I've got big ambitions to work in lots more schools. Some areas of the country that we'd like to kind of reach out to. We've got lots of schools in the northwest, in kind of Manchester area and Greater London as well. So yeah, definitely keen to kind of involve more schools in this program, because I think we don't have the biggest marketing budget. Maybe we don't have a marketing budget. So it's things like this which are really, really helpful for us to kind of share what we're up to, Neil. Yeah, I really appreciate talking to you.
Oh no, I find all this super fascinating, and you just said something there, and you said right at the beginning how you mostly sort of UK schools based. You've got a few sort of around the world. What would be super exciting? I love data. I'm a bit of a data geek. So what would be super exciting would be able to see the kind of outputs of almost a global trend of voice coming out of these schools, smart school councils, where that amalgamation of data and almost kind of picking up on a little bit like the underprivileged kind of versus not cohorts again, and seeing where globally the hotspots or the real talking points across the schools are. and with you guys right in the middle of that, driving and generating with as much public figure support as possible. That would be an amazing place. Probably a much bigger team you might need, I would imagine, if you're going to go after that kind of global domination. But that's an exciting place you find yourself in, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's we have a lot of data, and we definitely it's interesting. Each day we have about 10-15,000 young people in a kind of a class meeting or a discussion across our membership, and so there's a huge amount of information coming back on what their priorities are, what they're talking about, what's important to them, and so keen to kind of think more about what themes there might be within there.
Every day, 10 to 15,000.
Yeah,
that's enormous. That's incredible. Well, yeah, I mean, congratulations. That's a huge slice of data to work with, and can only do good. What's your biggest wish for, I guess, the school council vibe, but certainly smart school councils? What's your biggest wish and your biggest fear?
yeah. I think a big wish that I have is that there would be a little bit more belief in young people's voices, and I guess their ability to be agents of change and kind of create positive change. And I think from what we're doing, if you follow us on Twitter, you see all these amazing young people discussing and changing things in their school, big or small, and it feels good to be a little part of the world that is like a positive example of democracy, because I think at the moment there's so many challenges to that. So yeah, I really believe that that when you kind of give that belief to young people, they will treat it seriously, and maybe what they need is a system to operate within, which is a bit more fair, and that's I think what we're trying to do. And what's my fear? I guess it feels like a few things that sort of opposite of that. When this is a huge year for democracy, huge year for elections across the world, the biggest year ever for elections. I don't know if you know that, Neil. It's the biggest year for elections in human history, with a huge number of countries going to the ballot box this year. And I guess I feel like maybe my fear is that we start to close down a bit, and there's more and more walls that are put up between us, in terms of thinking, being able to agree or disagree. And I think that maybe we'll see, hopefully we won't see a shift with that this year. But yeah, and also it's and just personally, I guess it's not always easy running a kind of small charity. It's not an easy time. So definitely, as there's always a kind of constant nagging fear of thinking, how do we keep this going? How do we keep this growing? Which I know is like part of running an organization, and whether it's a business or a charity. But yeah, definitely that's like something in my mind as well, I think.
No, quite right. I didn't realize it was the biggest year ever for sort of elections in that sense. That's I'll just scribble some notes down. That's exciting. So go away and look into all of that. So I'm going to post all of your feeds, your links, your videos, everything in the comments below of the video. So please, everyone, get involved. Go see all the amazing stuff that Greg does. We're not quite done with yourself yet, Greg. We've got on my beautiful cards here, we've got some quick fire questions, which are a slight change of pace.
Okay.
So what's been your biggest influence on your career?
Oh, good question. Maybe my first boss, when I was working for a think tank, she was called Angela Rapson. She was amazing. I learned a lot from her.
Superb. What would you say has been your greatest achievement to date?
Oh, that's a hard one for first thing in the morning, isn't it? Probably just keeping going, with growing our schools year on year, making the program slowly better and better. I think the fact of kind of still kind of persevering and with something that I think is really important. It's a bit of a boring achievement. I think it's not like a ta-da, but I think I think that's important to me, that we're kind of still trying to solve for this really big problem.
No, it's perfect. I think it's hugely powerful and significant. What about the hardest lesson? What's the hardest lesson you've ever learnt?
Hardest lesson. It's probably, for a while I was like quite into Twitter, and sorry if I'm offending you, Neil, if you're a big Twitter fan, but I just feel like as an entrepreneur, like an eager, youngish entrepreneur. I'm not youngish anymore, by the way, but when I was, so many people have so much advice for you to do this, the 5 things to do this and do that, and I kind of feel like a big lesson is to not listen to any of that. I think it's really can be puts you off course a little bit. Feels like people giving you the kind of their lottery numbers and saying, oh, these ones will work for you. So yeah, not listening to Twitter entrepreneurs, I think, is the biggest lesson for me.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some nuggets to take away from some of the pieces of feedback you get, and all feedback is a gift, as we're all taught. But I think you're right there. What would be a piece of advice to say that all of the kids who are sitting their exams over the course of the next year or so, that are about to embark on next steps, either further education, the workplace, those kind of things? What would be your advice to them?
Oh, that's a tough one too. These quickfire ones are good, aren't they? I would say, get off your phones. Stop using your phone so much. I would point them to the fact that exams are important, but maybe they're not everything. I'm sure we've all got friends who did great in their exams, but then maybe struggled a little bit afterwards. So I would say it's important to try hard at those exams, but also see what else is out there in the world.
Good answer. Like that answer. I shall share that with my own children later. And then last on the quickfire, this is the locker room. What's in your locker personally? What's in your locker that's made you a success?
What's in my locker? I think I'm not sure if I'm a success, first of all. But I think one thing that I've got is that I don't really give up easily. I'm pretty headstrong when it comes to that and keeping going. And I would like to think that I'm pretty open to getting things wrong as well. I think that's important for me in kind of building a team and sharing. It comes back to that kind of definition of leadership, doesn't it? Do you want to be the person with all the answers that always knows what to do? And I don't know if I always get that right. Sometimes it would be maybe be better to be that type of person a little bit more sometimes. But yeah, I think being open to feedback and change, I think has been a helpful part of my toolbox.
I would 100% agree with that. I think, like you say, that having that kind of resiliency to maybe pick yourself back up, because every step of the way there's something trying to get in your way or knock you over. Being able to get back up, keep going, that's immense. And very much that leadership is built on that kind of growth mindset, isn't it? Listening predominantly more than actually trying to impart in a lot of cases. So superb. Greg, thank you so much for joining us in the locker room today. Loads of takeaways from everything you've talked to us about there. I found what you do super fascinating, but more importantly, super impactful to the schools and the kids that benefit enormously from being able to be heard and share their views and opinions and make a change for them and right across their classes and their schools. So super, really appreciate you coming on. For everyone watching, please leave your comments. I'll be posting all of Greg's links to his website, to his social feeds, and everything in the video below. So leave your comments, push those back to Greg. I'm sure he'd love to hear your views and thoughts and opinions. And do get in touch with Greg if you're in a school, if you work at a school, and this is something that that is particularly of interest. I can't see why it wouldn't be. Get in touch with Greg. I'm sure he and his team would love to hear from you. So, Greg, thanks again. And until next time, everybody, we shall see you very soon again in the locker room. Take care.
Bye-bye.